Good afternoon. Welcome to Joy News Today. My name is Sweetie Abochi. Coming up in this bulletin, growing calls for the reversal of a value-added tax imposed on some categories of residential electricity consumers, as former President John Dramani Mahama argues the move will only make cost of doing business in Ghana unbearable.
And it's making Ghana a very difficult place to do business. All business people are complaining.
Meanwhile, Joy News is learning the Energy Ministry is yet to reach a final agreement with two independent power producers on the outstanding energy sector debt treatment valued at some $2 billion.
In fact, we reached agreement, exchange term sheets with a significant number of IPPs. The remaining two or so is still ongoing, and we will conclude the discussions and make sure that we bring some sanity.
Leader of the new force, Nana Kwame, says he is ready to declare his assets and source of his wealth ahead of the presidential elections. Meanwhile, his spokesperson, Shalima Abuisi, chronicles human rights violations she allegedly suffered at the hands of Ghanaian authorities prior to her repatriation. The Belgian woman who was seen in a new force video, Shalima Abuisi, has detailed the surreal injustice she endured during her recent arrest, detention, and subsequent repatriation. Beekeeping offering many Ghanaian youth lucrative opportunities to sustain their livelihoods. We tell you the story of a Joy News impact maker and how he's changing the lives of hundreds through beekeeping for honey production. We have details including business, sports, world news, and showbiz all in this hour. Stay tuned. And now the news in detail. There are growing calls for the reversal of a value-added tax which has been imposed on some categories of residential customers. In a letter communicating its policy to the Public Utility Regulatory Commission, Minister for Finance Ken Ofori-Atta says any electricity consumption above lifeline units will attract the value-added levy. The ministry explains that the move forms part of government's COVID-19 recovery program. Now, Joy News' data analyst Isaac Kofi is online. We'll get back to you later on that story. Moving on, former President John Dramani Mahama is the latest to add his voice to the growing calls for the reversal of the value-added tax on electricity. John Mahama says the move will only pile up the cost of electricity, which has shot up by 29% increase. John Mahama says the cost of doing business in Ghana will also become unbearable. He was speaking during his Building Ghana tour in the Volta region. There's more in this report.
According to the NDC flag bearer, the NDC flag bearer was mobbed by people of the Volta region at Sugagope when the Building Ghana tour made entry into the region. At a stakeholder meeting with members of the NDC, Mr. Mahama expressed disappointment in the mismanagement of the power sector. He further commented on the persistent hike in electricity tariff.
Today, Dumso, they are kicking it like a football. Why? Because he wants to kick it over the 7th January 2025 line and hand the trouble over to somebody else. And yet we resolved it before they came into office. Today, they put value-added tax on electricity bills and COVID levy, NHIL levy, Get Fund levy, all on electricity bills. And so that is going to send the cost of your electricity bills up. Already there was a 29% increase, there was a 19% increase, then they tried to fool us with a 4% decrease, and now it's going up again astronomically.
Many businesses continue to suffer due to the hike in tariff. John Mahama believes a reduction in government expenditure could help reduce excessive taxes that have resulted in hikes in prices of goods and services.
And it's making Ghana a very difficult place to do business. All business people are complaining. I mean, the owner of this hotel who has given us this resort to do this meeting, you should ask him how much he's paying in electricity bill. And yet, because of the mismanagement of the president and his cousin and his vice president, it has plunged all of us into a difficult situation where they have pledged to the IMF to raise as much revenue as they can. And the point is, while you are raising revenue, reduce your expenditure. Because that's what any sane, reasonable person does. Because if you reduce your expenditure, you can ease the burden that you're putting on the taxpayer. If they cut down the expenditure of the office of the president, they've doubled it. Year on year, budget went up by 82 billion cedis. And so, if you reduce the rise of the budget in terms of expenditure, then you could reduce the incidence of tax. You might not need to place a value-added tax on electricity, so that you pass the relief on to the people of Ghana.
Meanwhile, the former president has assured the NDC will restrain itself from starting new projects, but seek to complete stalled ones.
All the projects that they inherited, they have abandoned. And they themselves have started projects that they know they cannot complete. And yet, instead of finishing the abandoned projects and ongoing projects, they've started new projects, Agenda 111. Some of them are at foundation level, some they've raised the block work, but they know that they cannot finish it before they leave. So what they'll do is they'll just push it on to somebody else and say, oh, we started this, and you came and you've abandoned it. But look at the mess you've created. Where are we going to get money to finish all those projects? But I have pledged that we would restrain ourselves from starting new projects. Whatever little resources that we come and meet, we will send it into completing the ongoing and abandoned projects.
The first day of the Building Ghana tour of the Volta region ended at Doje, where a town hall meeting was held. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Volta region.
We have Kofi J now, who is Joy News' data analyst. Isaac Kofi J joins us via Zoom. Isaac, so first of all, is it clear how the VAT on electricity adds to the general revenue target of government? Isaac, if you can hear me, please explain if it's...
The research team is learning.
Isaac is trying to explain more on the VAT added to some residential areas who are using power above the lifeline units. We'll bring you more details on that when we can reconnect with Isaac. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Energy is yet to reach a final agreement with two independent power producers on the outstanding sector debt treatment. The independent power producers have argued that the government owes them some $2 billion. However, Deputy Sector Minister Ejapa Mensah says although 4 power producers have agreed on settlement terms, 2 more are outstanding.
An internal meeting amongst energy sector agencies to try and see how we resolve some other matters in the sector to ensure that there are no outages as we've committed to the people of Ghana this year. We've taken those meetings today, and we've gotten some definitive plans and programs in place to ensure that the commitment that was given to the people of Ghana, consistent with the mandate that His Excellency the President has given my minister, of which we are assisting him, is achieved. No power outages, except when it is an absolute imperative, of which necessarily will have to inform Ghanaians of any eventuality. But I mean, it's not going to be as a result of lack of payment and all that. Indeed, and in fact, since August of 2023, all IPP invoices are current. We've gone into an agreement with them where ECG pays them $43 million a month to meet their invoices. There's an outstanding obligation, which you may term legacy, with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Energy. The government negotiating team is working to restructure and repay over a period of time. That conversation is far advanced. In fact, we reached agreement, exchanged term sheets with a significant number of IPPs. The remaining two or so is still ongoing, and we will conclude the discussions and make sure that we bring some sanity in terms of the finances in the energy sector.
Isaac Kofi joins us now on the issue of the VAT imposed on some categories of residential electricity consumers. Isaac, if you can hear me, please explain. Is it clear how this VAT on electricity adds to the general revenue targets of the government?
Well, sweetie, the exact amounts are known at the moment, but the Joy News Research Desk understand government already told the IMF that it was going to go heavy on the removal of VAT exemption on certain products and services. And this particular move may be one of them. We also understand that government is hoping to get more than 80% of its target revenue for this year from taxes. And VAT is going to be a big component. About 37 billion Ghana cedis will be raised compared to the target of 23.7 billion cedis last year.
So what exactly is the lifeline, and how much fee will a consumer above the lifeline attract by consuming electricity per unit?
Well, we are still waiting for details from the Ghana Revenue Authority. But as they say, there is no free lunch. And remember to see that the government recently decided to reduce the lifeline consumer bracket for electricity from 0 to 50% kilowatt hour to 0 to 30% kilowatt hour. And many consumers who were actually priced out after they enjoyed power for free during the heat of the pandemic. And how can you enjoy 50% discount on their bills during the pandemic, now have to pay more through taxes? And definitely this new tax move will attract more bills. It simply means that all Ghanaians who consume, or residents who consume above 30 kilowatts hours will be charged the VAT after it is implemented.
Well, thank you so much. We keep an eye on that and bring you more details as it unfolds. Moving on, flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, is appealing to party members to be prepared to take up roles as party agents in the upcoming elections. According to him, persons putting themselves up for the roles are often not competent enough, negatively impacting the party's fortunes. Recent exercises of the NDC Election Directorate have shown some of the officers do not understand the electoral process. Nanaya Ojima has more in this report.
According to the NDC flag bearer, there is a heightened call for the party to return to power due to present economic hardship. Nonetheless, John Mahama believes the electorate will not countenance a government that will repeat the wrongdoings of the present government. He explains the expectation of the NDC government if voted into power.
My brothers and sisters, Ghanaians are looking up to us, and we must use the 4-year term that they are going to grant us in 2025 to consolidate our democracy. We must not win the trust and the mandate of Ghanaians only to come and commit the same mistakes that MPP has committed. The 4-year term should be to build a foundation and a platform so that whoever we put there to take over from us who are leaving off would be able to continue and continue and continue. Ghanaians should see that NDC is always the better option. I know these are guys. If they go out of power for one term, they will go and metamorphose and, sprinkle themselves with perfume and tie new ribbons and come back, with their deceptive smiles and try to fool Ghanaians once again. And so our continuation in power would be dependent on this 4-year term. Ghanaians are calm today because they know there's an election coming up. Times are hard, things are difficult, and if it was just left to the natural scheme of things, we probably would not be sitting as peacefully as we're sitting here. But Ghanaians know that in a few months, they have the opportunity to make a change.
Mr. Mahama further cautioned future appointees against arrogance and corruption.
But they are not going to countenance anybody coming and doing the same thing that the MPP have been doing. And so we must look up. We must govern better when we come into office. We must fight corruption harder. We must be more transparent and accountable. We must, most of all, ease the economic burden on our people as quickly as possible. It will take some time, but we must work at it. We must be modest. We must be humble. We must not be arrogant. Some people, as soon as you appoint them into office, the arrogance of power begins to show. They say if you want to know the true character of a person, give him money or give him power. We must be humble. The humility with which we're going to the people and asking for their votes is the same humility that we must come back with as ministers and persons in authority.
John Mahama was addressing some party executives at South Tone and former appointees of the party. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Volta Region.
Nanaya Ojima is on tour with Mr. Mahama, and they're currently in Ho. Nanaya is joining us on phone now. Nanaya, what can you report from the tour currently? Okay, we'll bring you back. We'll bring back Nanaya Ojima shortly. But moving on, Nana Kwame Bediako, widely known as Cheddar, says he has nothing to hide regarding his source of wealth as far as his political ambitions and activities are concerned. In an interview with Joy News a while ago, Cheddar expressed his willingness to declare his assets and source of his wealth if need be. Bediako's purchase of approximately 150 billboards to promote his presidential ambition triggered speculation about his source of funding. He told Joy News' Benjamin Akakpo on the AM show that people are just jealous of him.
To respect the investment. That's what I'm saying, that even if the country turns their back on me and say that, oh, all your things that you did, we don't know where you got the money from, so we're seizing it. Well, what power do I have? You know, but one thing you should remember is that I went from digging the ground by putting the block, putting the concrete. I sweat. I stood in the sun. I built it. I did it. And I want the youth to replicate that. I want the people in Ghana to be doing the same. We always don't have to sit here and watch somebody to come from outside before a building can come up. Okay? We can't afford to buy a building. This is the reasons why we want to create a middle income economy. So we're living a fair life. It would reduce the jealousy. It reduce, you know, I know a lot of people are jealous, but I don't blame them. And I'm not fighting them. And as much as you don't like me, I can understand you. Because if you don't have it at all, and I have it, then you have to ask yourself, how did I get it? Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm trying to hint you that, you know, wisdom is one of the main things that has acquired my wealth. Because, I use my mind more than my pocket.
I think, you know,
is, however, using a different funding approach for his presidential campaign. He says he will embark on a donation drive to seek support from Ghanaians to finance his campaign.
Every leader that wakes up in Africa, that goes out there to campaign, is going to the people and say, take 50 cities, take 200 cities, take 400 cities, vote for me, vote for me. What do you think happens when that person becomes a president? All of you own the president. Because he's going to take his money back times 100 times from you. So the way we are doing our governance is wrong. The way we are building our political platform that is going to build our future is wrong, because we're bribing the people to vote. So when we become leaders, then we still back what we gave them, what we bribed them with 1,000 times. Now, who is wrong here? It's not just the president. You are also wrong. So the two people are corrupt. And we can't be going in circles doing this. I am coming to the nation. I am about to ask them. My team will come together. And it doesn't matter what you can contribute to us in this campaign that we're about to go through. Whether it's water, we will take it. Whether it's 1 cedi, we will take it. Anything that people give us, we will declare it. And we will show appreciation, and we will use that money rightfully.
Now, still on stories on the new force, the Immigration Service last month revoked her stay permit and deported her after the state dropped the charges proffered against her. In an exclusive interview with Raymond Akwa on Upfront, Shalima explained the charges were fabricated.
The charges were actually that I forged documents to obtain the resident permit, and also in the charges were mentioned that they were interested in the new force rather than my resident permit. So that is very interesting, isn't it? Because normally if it's a case of immigration, you're not being taken to court, leave alone being arrested without any evidence for 7 days and being kept at national intelligence. Is somebody really supposed to be kept at national intelligence if it's a problem with your permit? You know, I think it was very clear that it was about the new force, which was also mentioned in the charges, that I was there because they wanted to investigate my activities in relationship to the new force. So there was no evidence. There never was any evidence presented. They did a house search. They had access. They had my phone in their custody. There was nothing to prove that I forged documents to obtain a permit. I obtained the permit through an official immigration officer, as I mentioned before, and I don't know too much about the whole legal aspect. I think that is something for my lawyer, Mr. Sosu, can answer those questions better. But there was never any evidence presented, and especially if you know that they dropped all charges eventually, then we can ask questions on how true the allegations are.
Shalima also described the inhumane treatment she suffered at the hands of both immigration and NIB officers.
48 benchmark approached. My lawyer was present at NIB. They took him into a room and they took me away. At that point, they pushed me in a van and they or in a car, and they took me somewhere. I didn't know where I was going, so I kept asking, "Where am I going? What's going on? Where am I going? Why can I not speak to my lawyer?" And nobody was telling me anything. And then I saw we arrived at court, and I was like, my lawyer should be aware. Like, you should make him aware, or you should call him or let him know that I'm here. But they refused. They just ignored me. They weren't listening to me. They were lying to me that they were just going to file some documentation at court. And eventually they wanted to put me on the stand, take my plea, and potentially let me incriminate myself. I had a counsel, I had a lawyer, and they refused to give me access to him. They refused to call him. They refused to let him know where I was at that point. So that was very inhumane. So at that point, I told the judge, I spoke up for myself. I had to speak up for myself, and I told the judge that I do have a counsel and I want my lawyer to be present. The judge was very disappointed in the prosecution, and she told them I needed to make if I want to make phone calls, they have to let me make phone calls, but they never even granted my phone calls until 2 days after, and that means that I would have to come back the next day, so I would have to stay another night in the cell. So that is already, those are already a series of violations of human rights, that they deny you access to your counsel, no official charges, crossing the 48-hour benchmark, intentionally keeping me away in court from my lawyer, not granting me phone calls. Like, they tried to do a search without a warrant. Like, all of these things are just straight up violations.
Now, finally, when asked whether she has intentions of ever returning to Ghana, she had this to say.
I have not given up on Ghana. I feel like my work is not done yet. Like I said, I felt really inspired by everything that I've seen and I've been through. I still have a lot of love for Ghana. I've been staying there for some years, It's still a place that I hold very dear to my heart. And, I'm sure I'll be back eventually.
Away from the new force and stories there, moving on, the Federation of Ghana Beekeepers Association reports that despite 70% of the country's vegetation being conducive to beekeeping, over 60% of the honey used in Ghana, either for consumption or manufacturing, is imported from foreign markets like Burkina Faso. In an effort to boost beekeeping locally, the women and youth in beekeeping and the value chain Ghana have received a grant from CTVET Development Fund to train young Ghanaians in this venture. This follows Joy News' recognition of the founder Richard Mensah Okoye as an impact maker in agriculture and social welfare in June last year. Joy News' Esther Nkrumah was with the team during a training session in Bunso in the Eastern region and filed this report.
Beekeeping, the art of tending bee colonies to harvest product like honey, beeswax, honeycomb, and the likes present a lucrative opportunity for Ghana's economy. Despite the favorable vegetation for beekeeping, the lack of attention in this sector forces reliance on foreign markets for honey consumption. It is to fix this challenge that Richard Mensah Okoye founded the Women and Youth in Beekeeping Value Chain Ghana. This initiative, among many others, won him Joy News Impact Maker Award in the area of agriculture and social welfare in June this year. Following the recognition and to expand his work, his organization secured funding from COVET to train more young people in beekeeping.
So I'm going to remove some of the top bars for you to see what is in there. See, this empty comb. The comb is empty. They are now filling it with honey.
At a week-long training for young beekeepers at the University College of Agricultural and Environmental Studies at Bunso in the Eastern region, Richard Mensah Okoye emphasized that with proper investment and support, Ghanaian beekeepers have the potential to produce the best honey in the world.
We are not there yet, but from what I see recently is encouraging. Awareness is gradually going out. A lot of people are now going into beekeeping. We have graduates coming, talking to you, asking how can they start? And it's inspiring to me because 20 years ago when I started the Nkranza Techuma Beekeepers, we were just a few people and most people didn't know. But
now, the Multimedia Group has held its annual Thanksgiving service in appreciation of God's goodness of the business. Management and staff of the company gathered at the Victory Bible Church this morning to pray, sing songs of praise, and worship while trusting the Almighty for a successful and fruitful new year. Enjoy the sights and sounds from the event which ended a while ago.
Aye yine yo nyamidia Kole enasine yo nyamidia Sewa aye yine yo nyamidia o enasine yo nyamidia Every city wuna wunim joy pride Every city wuna wunim praise Every city wuna wunim nanama Every city wuna wunim watima One farman One farman One farman One farman, ever. One farman, farman, one farman. One more time, one farman, hey, one farman, one farman, one farman. Sorry, one farman, ever. Okay.
29 years. Wow. This can only be the doing of the Lord. 29 years of Christ at work. My distinguished bishops, pastors, reverends, my board chairman, board directors, clients who have joined us today, team, the amazing multimedia team. We have come this far not by our might, not by our strength, not by our power, not by education, not by connection, not by human wisdom and human endeavor, but by the Spirit of Christ at work in the multimedia group. And somebody shall say, Amen.
We'll pause here for a quick break. The news, Joy News Today continues right after.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the business segment of Joy News. Today with me, Pius Kojo-Baka. The Ghana Statistical Service has commenced the 5th Integrated Business Establishment Survey aimed at gathering data on businesses in both the informal and formal sectors of the economy. At the opening ceremony, the National Project Coordinator of the survey, Anthony Kakra, said the data collected will be used to produce the business register for the country, as well as analyzed to provide insight into the growth of businesses.
The 2024 Integrated Business Establishment Survey will provide updated statistics on the current structure of Ghana's economy to facilitate the revision of key macroeconomic indicators, including gross domestic product and producer price index. The survey is also expected to help develop policies aimed at formalizing the economy. In an interview, National Project Coordinator for the survey, Anthony Kakra, said the survey will provide information on the growth of businesses in the country.
Unlike the previous 4 economic censuses that we did in this country, starting from 1962, this time around we are trying to expand it. We are expanding the scope in a way that all informal businesses will be covered. All informal businesses in terms of those who sell in the market, on the streets, those who sell in the hawkers, those who sell in the streets, on tabletops, the fish sellers on the street, the tomato sellers, the fish sellers. If you go to Mokala, we see people putting tables, the fish and tomatoes on small tables in the market and selling. And all those people will cover it, and including the big shops, the stores, the big shops, all traders who trade on market days in our districts, in our markets, all will be covered. So the scope covers every business, unlike previously where we were only focusing on industries and big shops and all that. The difference in these 2024 IBES or economic census is that it covers every business, both the informal and informal sector. And the data we are going to get will be used to produce the business register for this country. We have previous business registers, but this is quite different in terms of the coverage for the informal sector.
Cybersecurity service providers, establishments, and professionals without license or accreditation have been barred from operating in Ghana. This is the latest directive from the Cybersecurity Authority, which took effect on the 1st of January this year. There's more in this report.
The directive follows a deadline issued by the Cybersecurity Authority to service providers to obtain licenses or accreditation to operate fully in the country. The authority says it will fully enforce the provisions of the Cybersecurity Act 2022, Act 1038, regarding its mandate to regulate entities operating in the cyberspace. Accordingly, persons who offer cybersecurity services without license or accreditation granted by the authority do so in contravention of the Act and will face the full rigors of the law, including criminal prosecutions and administrative penalties where applicable. Institutions and individuals are consequently advised to engage only licensed firms and persons in the country.
And that's it for business. I am Pius Kojo-Baka. Sports is next.
As you sports now on Joy News Today with me, Muftau Nabila Abla, former Black Stars defender and a management committee member of the Ghana Football Association. Sami Kufuor says Ghana or the Ghana Football Association should forget about winning this year's African Cup of Nations, which starts tomorrow. According to him, Ghana does not have a plan and a concept when it comes to building the national team, and that many people who are part of football rather speak about football in the interest of others and not the interest of football.
I think we have a problem the problem is we don't want to just go straight direct to where the problem is, because everybody is talking on the favor of somebody, whereby it doesn't look good on our national team. 2022, I was with the team. We have players, 17 players under 25 years. It's a huge credit for us. If you build it from there, we shouldn't, you see, there's always, I always say this, there's a difference between preparation and planning. We don't plan, we prepare. That is my major concern about this. Because if you have 17 players under 25, what do? You just finished the World Cup 2 years ago, and almost 1.5 years now. So what do? You plan towards maybe 2026, 2025, 2027. AFCON, one of them. I should plan myself to go and win the trophy, because that time the players are more matured, they are more experienced, they go to their peak. Now, because we have Kudus, we have Dede, we have Iñaki, everybody say that we should go and win the trophy. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. We should have a proper planning. If we have plan, then we give ourselves this time around in Côte d'Ivoire, if we go to the quarterfinals, hallelujah. If we go to the semi-finals, praise the Lord. If we win the trophy, a gift from God. But we don't do that. Because we have certain players who are playing good in their various clubs, we thought that we should go and win the trophy. It doesn't work like that. It took Senegal how many years? 7. It took Senegal how many years? We should forget about the previous 1982, since 82 we haven't won the cup. It doesn't make the difference. The difference is how we prepare ourselves towards the trophy. If we don't plan and prepare, we always go there and fall short. I'm telling you, because I don't see these players being bad players. I see them as a good talent, but we need to plan for them. Because if we don't plan for them, we thought that we have a good players or they are individual, they are very good. No. A national team should have identity. A national team should have a concept, should have a plan and strategy, but we don't have it. That's the fact, we don't have it. So I will still believe that there's still more room to improve. So if we have those players that we see that there's a plan for them, we shouldn't think about this African Cup of Nations. We think the next 2 additions. Either we go to the semi-finals or we win the trophy. That's my view.
Sami Kufode speaking to my colleague Nathaniel Arthur, and this is what we'll be bringing to you on Prime Take on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Do join the sports team on Joy 99.7 FM as we come your way with Game Plan. That's sports for now. Do head on to myjoyonline.com for more sports stories.
And it's time for us to get into the world of entertainment. Well, latter part of last year and the early part of this year has seen a lot of videos from Hollywood comedian Cat Williams, which he's been talking a lot about his colleagues, both musicians, actors, and comedians. Well, one such person he spoke about and says that he gave him the advice of his lifetime was Michael Blackson. Before we even go to the Michael Blackson response, let's take a listen to what Cat Williams said to Shannon in this interview. Well, like I said, Michael Blackson was not the only person he spoke of. He even spoke of Ludacris, and Ludacris has done a song as a response to him. But Michael Blackson, who was in Ghana to celebrate 1 year of his academy, giving free tuition to pupils in Agunansaba, where he hails from, had a sit-down interview with Dorian Avio, and he gave a response to what Cat Williams said. This is what Michael Blackson said.
He lied so much in this interview. He lied so well. He almost convinced me that what he said about me was true. That's how well this guy lies. His lies are so believable because he's brilliant. He's a smart guy. You know, I mean, the thing about it, I could go and do an interview and make fun of things and other, you know, but I mean, I really thought comedians were all friends and family. We go through little beefs here and there, you know. I'm probably the cause of me and his beef. So I'm sure everybody he said something about, he had beef with them. Somehow, some way, he had some kind of encounter with them. I did have an encounter with him. And it was me really trying to give this guy a compliment in an interview, but it didn't come off the right way. You know? I did an interview on Drink Champs, and I was talking about comedians. I said, I think the most lovable comedian in the world is Cat Williams. I don't care how much crack y'all think he smoked. So when I said that, he said I called him a crackhead. So now that's how I got on his list. I don't know what Steve Harvey did to get on his list. I'm not sure what Ricky Smiley did to get on his list. I'm not sure what Martin Lawrence did to get on his list. But I know how I got on his list, right? But it's all comedy at the end of the day. We not no real gangsters. It's just jokes and it's fun. And he got a good one. He got us. He got us good, but everybody will get him back. You know, he got us good for free. He didn't get paid to do that. I'm gonna get paid to make fun of him. Oh my goodness. So the war.
Well, that was Michael Blackson telling during a view that he will be paid for getting back at Cat Williams because Cat Williams did it for free. It means what he is saying is every time he's going on his tour or any show, he is sure will have something for Cat Williams in there. And that is what is bringing the curtains down on what we have in the world of entertainment. Sweetie, I don't know what I have to do to get on your list.
But I have a question. Is Michael the only one who's called out or to say that Cat Williams lied about? Because I know Tiffany Haddish just ridiculed it, same as Kevin Hart. They just made fun of the
They
whole
all made
situation.
fun of it. And like I said, Ludacris has also responded with a track, which is very, very, very interesting.
But did he say that it's a lie? This
no,
is the only one I've seen.
He is the only one saying.
Yeah.
Well, he is also saying in perspective of what Cat said about him.
Yeah.
That he lied so well that Cat almost made he himself believe what he said about him.
That's a good one.
And he's given a promise that anytime he's on stage performing when he has been paid, he sure has some swipes for Cat Williams.
But that's the interview of the lifetime for Shannon, especially. I mean, 7 days into 2024, and the internet was ablaze with all the schemes that he was dropping.
It's gonna go. And everywhere you type Cat Williams, Shannon's interview pops up.
He needs to write
Cat Williams
a check, absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing us the gist in the world of entertainment. Were you at the church Thanksgiving service?
Yes, I always have to give thanks to God for 29 years of, the multimedia family.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
I saw someone wearing the same thing as me dancing there, but if you see
it's
not me.
It wasn't you.
Thank you all so much. This is where we wrap up for Joy News today. My name is Sweetie Abochi. Join us at 7 p.m. for another news bulletin. Keep watching Joy News.